and of the Holy Spirit, God is one. Amen. Good morning to Anthony and to Stella. Spyro has COVID, coming to life from London, replacing him at the office. Poor Spyro. Let's pray for him that he quickly gets over that. That's very unpleasant and nasty for him. Good morning. Let's see who else is here. There are 5 people apparently today, but several of us in hiding. There we go. It's a cold, miserable, dank, dark, unpleasant day here. But there we go. I guess that as it's only the 10th of January, we should expect such things, but it sort of seeps deep into me and makes me feel really ghastly. And this morning when I woke up, I stuck my nose out of the duvet and said to myself, do I really have to get up? I said, yes, you do. Get up. I said, do I have to get up now? I said, yes, you do. Get up. I was reminded of a friend of our family's, my family. His name is John Millard. He was a huge man, a great man, lovely man, and was in charge of National Buses headquarters in Victoria. He might actually have been in charge of the whole of National Buses. I can't remember. Anyway, he had quite a high-powered job and managed to get me on an otherwise full bus on one occasion when I was a cheeky teenager. But he apparently, when he was younger, he decided he needed to go running every day. So he said to my father, who said, well, what will you do if you decide not to get up and go running? I'll say to myself, Millard, you're a rat. Apparently the next day my father said to him, so how's the run? And John Millard said to my father, well, I woke up and I switched off the alarm clock. And I said to myself, Millard, you're a rat, and went back to sleep. And I think that was the end of his health drive. Oh well, never mind. Right, good morning Phoebe and Christos, Kalimera, Anton, Happy New Week to you also, Anton. Gary, good morning. And Vicky, good morning, God bless you and your family. Good morning Dino, you've got a driving test today? Lucky old you. And Maria Godfrey, good morning to you as well. I've got some nice things to show you. Not only am I drinking out of my 10 of 10 mug, one of the 3 that I now have, of different sorts. And good morning Beverly, cold, miserable, damp, dark. And Tracy, even cold and dark in California. Well, that's not how it ought to be. I thought California is where you started surfing USA. Right, we have to pray for Judy today. She's having a brain scan today. And that reminds me of some friends of hers. This is from Bruce and Nikki, who have sent me this. And it's a present not only from them. There's a lovely picture also of a donkey, and but also their ponies are called Bucky, Roo, Sarah and Ginger. The hens, Beeb and Nip, and the cats called Olive and Happy also sent. And they also sent a really charming story that I think Bruce has written. I'm not sure, but this is from St. Tikhon's Monastery, beautifully done. There's some things I really particularly like about it. Some really good stuff here. One of the things I like is the fact that right at the very beginning is the calendar, the list of saints for each day of the year. Now, quite often that takes place right at the very back of the prayer book. But here, right at the very front, there's a good reminder that when we pray with the saints, not by ourselves, but with them. And it's got some lovely things in it. I've thoroughly enjoyed looking through this, and there's certain things I know I'm going to be using straight away. Excuse me, I've got hiccups. Straight away. Really lovely stuff. So I have no idea how much this costs, but it's worth every dime or nickel, or I'm not quite sure what a dime or a nickel is, but cent, penny, or 50p piece that you might want to spend on it. It's beautifully produced. I'm not sure if you can see how nice that is. Can you see? There. Anyway, it's beautifully produced. Okay. Um, Vera, your name is also in the gang names mug, yes? And anyway, Bruce and Nikki are friends of Judy. So thank you, Judy, for introducing your friends to us. And may God bless you in return for that. And oh, another thing, which is just amazing, it arrived in the post the other day and has really quite blown my mind. Now, I knew it was coming, so I've seen photographs of it beforehand. The person who did this lists herself as AC on the side here. So this is really quite amazing. So it starts off, there's a nice box. There's actually a beautiful wrapper that the whole thing came in, with a large B on the front. And Christina has, she obviously has very high quality food. And then rather strangely, there's a Christmas sloth. Whatever next I asked myself, look at that, do you see the colouring? And this is then matched by what you discover when you open it up. There's a lovely card and red wrapping paper. And I'm just going to undo this. And I'm not going to take this out of the box. It's just amazing, absolutely amazing. I was going to hang it up, but I'm not going to. You see all these stars? These stars have been individually cut out. So there's one. So it's a white star with a silver background, and all of them are much the same. The white star with silver background on a red ribbon. And I don't know if you can see, but can you see that each star has got a name written on it? And there are hundreds of them. It must have taken absolutely ages to do. And look, Thecla. Can you see where my finger is? That one's for you. And the other ones here, there's Balamand, Veronica, Father Vasily, Elton in South Africa, Graham, David, George and Victoria, Metropolitan Siloam. So I'm reading it the wrong way around. Jason, AC, of course. Potamis Publications, Jonathan Reeve, Patrick, as a Whitehorn. So as people are mentioned, which is amazing from my background, and people who come onto this, and it's just absolutely astounding. It's beautiful. Sergei, Roger, homeless people have asked me, Theophan, whose name day it is today, a friend of Father Alex's, Brother Joseph. We've got, who we got here? People from the Levantine. Okay, so Irini, you're here as well. Vera, Sally, we've got Alexandra. I'm digging through. Adam, Martin, Dino, you're here. Someone near the bottom of this pile here. Petronella, who is married to Catalan, not married to Catalan. Yoda, Elton's neighbor, Elton himself is on here too. Elton's father, Buster the dog, Toby, John, Natasha, Judy is here, and so it goes on. Jean from Lebanon, Angelos, Abdullah, Rebecca, Sergi. I said Sergi already. We've got Phoebe, you're in here. Father Alexander, and so it goes on. It's just an amazing thing. Absolutely amazing. I'm going to really enjoy looking through this bit by bit. It's a wonderful way of reminding me to pray for people, apart from anything else. CM, we've got here Harry, we've got Henry, we've got Alban, we've got Thecla's dad. Okay, so thank you very much indeed for that. That is the most amazing thing. I think you can pretty well guarantee that if you come on here at any point, where I've mentioned you at any stage, you're on here. Rafiq, who we've got here now? Sandhu, it's extraordinary. Really, absolutely extraordinary. Christina made it, who comes on here as AC. So there you are, you've been outed by me in a big way. It's incredibly touching, Tracy, Declan, and when I opened it, I immediately burst into tears. It's just a huge amount of work and just wonderful act of love. We've got Mary, we've got, I mean, there's just so many various friends of Harry's. It's extraordinary. Brother Paul, who else we got? Paul, Catherine, Elias, David, Ian, Patrick, Chris, Andrew. Isn't that wonderful? Absolutely wonderful. So those are two really amazingly special gifts that just, well, me, robbed of all words. I was robbed of all words, but as you can see now, I'm full of fine phrases, as it says within the Psalms. It's just absolutely amazing, wonderful. Thank you so very much. God bless you. Yeah, really astounding. Now then, let's see who else is here. Nighttime, but it's cold. And Natalia, God bless you. You're on the stars. Vera, St. Econ's is your main seminary. Mm-hmm. Who made the mug? I have no idea who made the mug. The sloth, because one's late around Christmas time. Isn't it wonderful? Yeah, it's what priests do during Toscanidi, Vera, preparing the guests, reading the names of everybody, which I always find very, very moving when I do that. And when people hand in gifts, not gifts, when they hand in the names to me, a list of names to pray for, and every time that happens, it's an act of straightforward love, isn't it? Straightforward love. And whenever I receive these and pray for them, pray for whoever it is, sometimes there's some very moving things. And in our congregation, people hand in names of people from the Ukraine and from Russia and other places like that, of relatives of theirs who are martyrs for the faith. They were murdered by the Bolsheviks because they were Christian. And that always just fills me with wonder, actually. And you have, there's one lovely person, Stefan, who has an enormous list of names. He keeps on adding people onto it. You see, this is just so full of love, this young man. And I love praying for his list particularly. I love praying for all of them. So there's something really immediate about his. And sometimes you can't remember who it is. And it says, and that person who Gabby mentioned, or something like that. There was an occasion when I'd been praying for somebody called Murphy for some time at the Proscomedi. I went back to the person and said, who is this Murphy? Keeps on striking me every time I pray for this person. And the person handed in and said, well, it's my dog. So, oh, well, perhaps I won't pray for your dog at the Proscomedi anymore. Isn't that it's such a lovely thing, such a beautiful, lovely thing when people hand in the names. Anyway, let's crack on. Apparently that's one of my sayings, so I've forgotten it. We're going to be looking at the huge genealogy of the Lord today. That's in chapter 3 of Luke, verses 23 to the end of the chapter, which is verse 38. Film treasures. Good mother, father, from Graham. Good morning, presumably. Good morning, Graham. God bless you. Now Jesus himself began his ministry at about 30 years of age, being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph, the son of Heli, son of Matthat, the son of Levi, the son of Melchi, the son of Janna, the son of Joseph, the son of Mattathiah, son of Amos, the son of Nahum, the son of Esli, the son of Nagai, the son of Maath, the son of Mattathiah, the son of Semai, the son of Joseph, the son of Judah, the son of Jonas, the son of Risa, the son of Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, the son of Neri, the son of Melchi, the son of Adi, the son of Kosan, the son of Elmodam, the son of the son of Joseph, the son of Eleazar, the son of Joram, the son of Mattat, the son of Levi, the son of Simeon, the son of Judah, the son of Joseph, the son of Jonan, the son of Eliakim, the son of Mili, the son of Nenan, the son of Mattatha, the son of Nathan, the son of David, the son of Jesse, the son of Obed, the son of Boaz, the son of Salmon, the son of Nashon, the son of Amminadab, the son of Ram, the son of Hezron, the son of Perez, the son of Judah, the son of Jacob, the son of Isaac, the son of Abraham, the son of Terah, the son of Nahor, the son of Serug, the son of Uriah, the son of Peleg, the son of Eber, the son of Shelah, the son of Canaan, the son of Arphaxad, the son of Shem, the son of Noah, the son of Lamech, the son of Methuselah, the son of Enoch, the son of Jared, the son of Mahalalel, the son of Canaan, the son of Enosh, the son of Seth, the son of Adam, the son of God. Put in mind of my old seminary principal, whose name was David Wilcox. He's now an Anglican bishop. And he used to say that once you start on these genealogies, especially if you're reading it from Matthew, you just pronounce the name the same time each time it turns up and nobody will notice. There we are. Now, I don't know if you were able to count that up, but there are 77 names mentioned there. From Joseph to God, 11 times 7 names. And they're in groups of 7, and some of these appear at the right moment. In some Bibles, 1 or 2 are left out, but if you have the full list, and whether this has been done by scribes later on, I'm not sure, but if you have the full list, you have 77 names, and various people come at the beginning of a group of 7 names. So one of them, for example, is King David, who starts a group of 7 names, and takes you all the way up to those. And of course, 77 would be a perfect number of perfect numbers. So you've got 7 and a 7, and 7 is a Jewish perfect number with the Sabbath. And you'll notice also that the genealogy ended with Jesus, but it begins with God, Son of God. So God tops and tails this genealogy, and that is a really important part of what Luke wants you to know. So you want to have that in your mind to begin with. Now, if you read the same genealogy in Matthew's Gospel, you'll find that Matthew cuts out all the earlier ones. He begins with Matthew. Sorry, he doesn't. He begins with Abraham, and he works down through the generations, going through various men and women, until finally he gets to Jesus, and he works through various lots of generations. 14 generations, 14 generations, 14 generations. You notice there, the 7 is there again, so 6 lots of 14 in his case. And if you look at them carefully, you'll see that they are different genealogies. The one in Matthew is to do with really the Mother of God, Mary, and the other one is this one here in Luke. It's following names all the way down. So in a way, you've got Matthew is following the bloodline, which leads to Mary, which leads to Christ. And Luke is following the legal line, which will go through the men from Adam down to Christ. Or, as you actually have it here, from Christ down to Adam. Okay? So you begin obviously with the most important, which is Christ, and you work backwards towards Adam. Luke has no women at all mentioned. That's because he's following this legal line, which went through the patriarchy, through the fathers. Ooh, patriarchy. I'll have people jumping on my neck in a moment, but there's an interesting little thing to come here about patriarchy. Okay? Luke also, he refers all the way through by starting off by saying suppose. He's mentioning the virgin birth immediately. And although he's making Joseph the legal father, he's also making it clear by this that adoptive children have a legal ancestry as important and as binding as their biological genealogy. Okay, so the legal one is as important. That's important. Now, in Islam, for example, because there's a reason why Muhammad said this, but you cannot actually adopt in the same way as you can within Christianity or Judaism and so on. Adoptions don't have any legal standing in Islam, whereas in Christianity they do. And this is because Joseph was the adoptive father of Jesus, and yet Jesus has an adoptive genealogy going right the way back to Adam. Okay, you see how important that is. Okay, so Jesus has that legal identity also as a son of David, and also through Mary. He has a bloodline going back to David as well. And that is important because of the promises to David that someone would sit upon his throne and rule forever. Okay? You also get that thing in the Psalm, my Lord said to my Lord. How does he call him my Lord? Because he's not really, in the same sort of way, his son. This is God. And you'll notice too that it's not just the Lord is son of Joseph or son of God, but he's son of all these other people as well, through their genealogy with one going to the next. And you have that extraordinary thing going backwards. Now, through my grandmother, and because of my sister and her work on genealogy, it's a big hobby of hers, we can go back 33, I think it might be 36 generations in my family, which takes us back to 1060 something, 1066 and before. And that's, so here we have 54 generations, I think it is. So we're going right the way back an awful lot further than that. And part of it obviously into mythology. So let's have another look at not all of the individual verses, but just some of them. The first one is really important, and the last one is really important. Then a couple of three in between that are also very important. Okay, now in Greek it says ke, and Jesus himself began his ministry at about 30 years of age, being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph. Now, in fact, that's not what it says in Greek. We've added in words there in English, and nearly all the Bibles in English add in words here to make it sound as if, in the beginning, Jesus himself began his ministry. So the words his ministry at are added in here, and that's a shame because it distorts the meaning of what Luke wanted to say. Now, in Greek it says, and himself was Jesus beginning about 30 years old. Okay? The word there, beginning, is archomenos. Archomenos. And you can hear in there, archomenos, the word archi. And that will remind you also of John's Gospel, en archi otophos. In the beginning was the, otologos rather, en archi otologos. In the beginning was the word, archi, beginning. It's the word that we have for, that starts off words like archbishop, arch-heretic, arch-criminal. I probably shouldn't put archbishop with those other two, never mind. But it's, there we go. But also, I'm looking at an arch here that keeps the doorway up, and or you might say, and the principle in the beginning, en archi, right at the very start of everything, or you might say, first things first. Okay, First things first. Thank you, Christos. Archomenos, you got there. So the arch, the first principle, the most important thing. So you've got to have that little idea in your mind when you read this word here, archomenos. Okay? And himself was Jesus, archomenos, about 30 years old. Okay? So Jesus is the archi, the beginning of what? Well, he's beginning really of the end times people and the end times. Remember, he goes around saying, you read this in Mark and in Matthew, Jesus went about saying, repent, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. In other words, this is coming to the end of the entire business of salvation. Okay, the entire business. Now it's coming. But it says beginning. And we're thinking about it really as the end, but actually it's the beginning. Because in this genealogy, God begins and ends the genealogy. So the principle of all of this genealogy is to do with Christ. Okay? He starts it, he ends it. He's the Alpha, Omega, as he says before. He is the archi, the archomenos within it, the beginning, the completion of it as well. Okay? So, and we, the church, the humanity, the end times humanity, the eschatological, that means end times, eschatological people of God, the people living in the eschaton, the last times of God. And we'll come back onto that in a moment when we think about son of Adam, son of God. I notice that Vera has said something about that already, and I'll explain in a moment. Okay? So that's a really important little bit there that's completely missed in the English translation by mistranslating it. Now, Jesus himself began his ministry at about 30 years of age. It's not what it says. Just not what it says at all, and certainly not what it means. And himself was Jesus, beginning about 30 years old, using that word archomenos. So really, really important. Right, 30 years old. That's important too. It tells us, obviously, how old the Lord was when he was crucified. But the really important thing is, why 30? Well, it seems that there are archetypes of this. Oh, that word again, archetypes. Archbishop, arch-heretic, arch-criminal, arch over the door, archetype. There are archetypes of this too, so that Joseph, the all-comely, was 30 when he started to serve Pharaoh. You read about that in Genesis chapter 41. King David was 30 when he began to reign. You can read about that in 1 Samuel, I think it's chapter 4, I'm not certain. So 30 is a good time to begin something. And certainly in the Jewish mind, the idea was that once you were 30, you were grown up enough and you were mature enough to get on with whatever the really important job it was you were going to do. You'll find the same is true in the canons, that for priesthood you should be 30, to be a bishop 34, to be a deacon I think you have to be 23, and so on, so that there is a lower limit to the age you need to be before you can be ordained. Very often, unfortunately, that is not followed. I've even heard of somebody being ordained as a priest. I think he was aged 19. And that poor sausage, I can hardly imagine how terrible that was. I was 25 as an Anglican when I was ordained as a priest. And looking back, I must have really messed with a lot of people's lives. Anyway, there we go. Carrying on with verse 23, another word. Jesus, about 30 years old, being, as was supposed, or assumed, you could say, as was supposed, assumed. Now, this links back, of course, to the Annunciation in Luke chapter 1, verses 26 and following. The Annunciation makes it quite clear that the birth is virginal through Mary. But Luke is following this legal line, like I said earlier on, this legal line. And that is interesting in itself. We've had that before. So he follows this legal line, but he immediately scuppers it. He says, I'm going to follow your legal line, lawyers, but have this in your mind, it doesn't count. And I want you to know that it doesn't count. And I'm going to use this word as was supposed to show that it doesn't count. Okay? Actually, Jesus is really from the female line in human terms and from God. So we have here Luke immediately thumbing his nose, as it were, at the usual legal way of doing things. God has his own way of doing things. Okay? People have their way of doing things, and God has his own way of doing things. This will cheer up those people who complain about the patriarchy very much. Look at me as a white, middle-class, educated male, born into a family at the time of the British Empire, as a member of the British Empire, born in a colony and a protectorate of the British Empire. Oh dear, apparently I can't say anything about anything, because I'm actually not just part of the problem, but I am the problem. Anyway, there we go, so may it be. Keep me humble anyway. Tell me to shut up, as I've often been told to shut up. But Luke is thumbing his nose at this sort of patriarchal way of doing things and this legal way of doing stuff and saying, I'm telling you now, though I'm going to tell you all about this, it doesn't count for much. All right. And then we have a great list of people. You have to remember to pronounce each of them the same as you did last time, maybe a year before, until you get down to verse 31. And here we have the son of Meli, the son of Menan, the son of Mattatha, the son of Nathan, son of David. Now, two really interesting things about that. The first one is, of course, you've got David mentioned there. And David comes at the beginning of one of these groups of seven. Okay? One of these groups of seven. And that emphasizes his importance. I'm not saying that Luke either added or took away people, but it doesn't quite fit with other ways of counting that we've come across, but there we go. But David begins this group of seven, and that emphasizes his importance. We have to note that this person was there. Okay? Really important. And the second thing that's interesting is, look who it says who his son is. Who do you think it's going to be? Well, if it's like me, I'd follow Matthew and say, and also the scriptures, and think, well, after David came King Solomon, as we all know. But after Solomon came two other kings who divided the kingdom, and one whole part of that kingdom just simply disappears. They become Samaritans. And Luke has bypassed this problem by choosing son number 3 of David, Nathan. Not Nathan the prophet, just any old Nathan. Well, Prince Nathan. And we then follow down the genealogy from Nathan rather than from who you might expect, Solomon. After all, half the world is related to Solomon and the other half related directly to David, because both of them had any number of concubines and so many wives they probably didn't even know their names. Anyway, so there we have something really interesting there. And the choice of this third son is interesting too. You remember about David, son of Jesse, that he was the youngest of all of his brothers. He was tall, he was beautiful, he was handsome, he was rugged, and he looked after the sheep, which was the junior child's job to do. And he was the one that God chose and the prophet anointed. And we've got a sort of similar thing happening afterwards. Although Solomon becomes king, it's Nathan from whom we then get the rest of the genealogy from towards Joseph. In Matthew, he follows through Solomon. Okay. but it's rather nice. There's a nice little theological point being made there. And then verse 34, etc., 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 son of so-and-so, son of so-and-so, son of so-and-so, get to verse 34, the son of Jacob, the son of Isaac, the son of Abraham, the son of Terah. And you have Terah there, who gives birth to Abraham, and Abraham is the one that God comes to and says, Abraham, take up your staff and go and move home. Time you left of the Chaldees and disappeared somewhere else, and off he goes. And the promises are given to Abraham that through his children, all nations on earth will come to worship God. And this is why it is we have this important thing here. Okay? A good thing here. So Jesus himself is the fulfillment of those promises to Abraham, and it's there that should go back 54 generations. Now, 54 generations is an awful long time. From the time of Jesus to Abraham, Abraham is living right at the very end of the Stone Age. And it's remarkable if you think about being able to count your generations back to the Stone Age. 54 generations, where will that take me back to? Probably almost as far as Christ. If you had to wait from Christ until now to have somebody or other making a promise to you, and 54 generations that promise will be given, fulfilled, it shows a certain amount of patience. And for quite a lot of that time, 450 years, they'd either been in Israel for another 40 years, not in Israel, in Egypt, and for another 40 years they've been wandering around the desert in Sinai. Then they go into the promised land, but even then the promise doesn't come. They have to wait right the way through until the birth of Christ, until the promise is fulfilled, 54 generations later. And then we go on to all sorts of other folk who have names that are not entirely, you might say, popular or fashionable now, like Peleg and Shelah and Arphaxad, and so on, or Aminadab. Anyway, we get to the son of Enosh, the son of Seth, the son of Adam, the son of God. Right, son of Adam, well, we're talking there about the son of Adam. So Adam himself married to Eve, producing children like Cain and Abel, and in this particular case here, Seth, and then son of Adam. Adam's next son after Cain and Abel. Abel having been killed, Cain having disappeared off into the desert. Now, Adam, in order to make sense of this, you have to remember what Adam means. Adam means man, okay? Human being. And it also means it's to do with dust and earth and red earth, son of the red earth, man. And so humanity, if you think about the colour of people living in the Middle East, they're much the same sort of colour as the beautiful soil they have in that area, which is a lovely ruddy red colour. Beautiful ruddy red colour. And humanity, you can put your hand down on there. If you put my hand down on there, it's just, it doesn't look so nice. But somebody or other, the Palestinian, Jewish person, Syrian, Lebanese, somebody living in that Fertile Crescent, all the way up through Iraq, they put their hand down the earth. You can see the similarity. This other beautiful ruddy red colour, healthy looking colour. And so Adam springs out of that earth, as you'll read in Genesis, and is, as it were, born of the earth and of God. But really here we need to think of the word Adam, meaning man. Okay, so we can now read this again. Etc., etc. Jesus, the son of, this one, that one, the other one, the son of man, the son of God. Ta-da! You see where Luke has gone with this, and how tricky it is to read it without thinking about the way it should be read. So Jesus is both Son of Man and Son of God. Jesus is related, in inverted commas, I'm going to put this, to both God and man, and he himself is the fulfillment of the whole saving history that the scriptures have taken up to until now. From Adam, through Abraham, through David, through times of faithfulness, and some of these people are faithful, through times of faithlessness, and some of these people were good examples of having no faith. And so we also, through adoption by Christ, can belong to God, because this is just what God wishes. He wants it that way. So Father Philip here is also related to Adam and to Abraham and to Matan and to Aminadab, Ram, and all the others through adoption by God into the saving history of the people of Israel, the new Israel we belong to. Okay? Something else to notice here as well. Matthew ends at Abraham, and it'd be very easy to say to yourself, oh, so this is something for just Jewish people who are directly descended from Abraham. But Luke goes right the way back, and this fits in with this basic idea of what he wants to tell everybody. He goes all the way back to Adam. And by going all the way back to Adam, everybody is related to Adam and Eve. Everybody. Everybody is related to everybody. And whatever race you are, whatever background you are, wherever you come from, you're related. Whatever religion, whatever, you're related to Adam, and therefore there's only one family, and therefore the gospel is for everybody. It's for the whole family of God, all of them who are the son of Adam, and by extension, the son of God. Okay, remember, son, daughter of God. Son, as I said the other day, showing a legal status that wasn't allowed to women, but was allowed to Christian women because they were brought up to equality with men. Okay, so you have to have here, Luke is writing to a Gentile audience. He himself is probably from Syria. There are one or two little clues in this because he uses spellings that are not Hebrew but are from the other local languages of the area, like Aramaic and so on, but also from, I'm not sure what they spoke back then, probably a Syriac or something, don't know. And he's using alternative spellings that give an idea that he doesn't actually come from Israel and from Judea. Okay, so the gospel is for everybody. It encompasses all races and all people. And that's important because he's writing to Theophilus, and he's writing to say, you know what, Theophilus, this is for you too. I'm trying to tell you that this is not something novel. Judaism hasn't really changed by becoming Christianity, but this is now something for you also. You too can become a son of God. And finally, Jesus is fully God and fully human. Okay, there we go. I think we can stop there. I can see that people are writing stuff. Let me have a look. There's something that's being held for review, which I'm not going to show because it's a site of pornography. Isn't that nasty of somebody? Here it says the one in Matthew ends up with Joseph. I remember from the Sunday before Christmas. Yeah. Luke begins with Jesus and works up through the genealogy to Adam, whereas Matthew starts from Abraham, works down through the genealogy towards Jesus. Of course, me saying up and down, really it's the other way around. So the most important one is Jesus. So in both cases, they work towards Christ, but in opposite directions. Anton says, 77 just reminds me how many times I should have forgiven my neighbor. 7 times 77. Yep. Which was a way of saying always, okay? Eternally, you never stop forgiving your neighbor. It signifies eternity, says Vera. Yes, quite right. Good evening, John. Happy New Year to you also. I can't believe that we're already 10 days into this new year. Phoebe, a deacon is 25, Roman age and maturity, 20 for a subdeacon, and 16 for a reader. I have seen a bishop ordain readers as young as 5, and they couldn't read. Women deacons, 40, due to concerns about family responsibilities and making sure the candidates were dedicated to the church and not their families. I have to be very careful what I say about that. I'm white, middle class, educated. I keep my mouth shut. Well, thank you, Vera. You said all sorts of things. It also had to do with the age women who had children would have reached legal independence through having raised 3 children to a reasonable age and probably been widowed. She might well have smothered her husband by then. There was a lovely lady who used to live down the road from me. She came from St. Kitts in the Caribbean, and was absolutely a superb person. She and I would often go off and have dinner together in various places, and she was the absolute life and soul of anywhere she went to. Anyway, after she had 9 children, she said to her husband, "You can go back to St. Kitts, I've had enough of you." He quibbled about this, but she handed him his ticket and off he went. Dear old Kate. What a blessing to life she was. Absolutely wonderful woman. Kate Braid, her name was. She's been dead a long time. Absolutely wonderful person. Okay. I did struggle to turn 30, but it didn't bother me turning 40. I'm going to be 63 before very long. 40 sounds like a right youngster now. Okay. Maria Dana, Vagu, please pray for my sons, Philip, Raphael, Maria Dana, Marin, Evgenia, Rafila. Indeed we will. May God bless you all. Vera, talk, brothers, sisters, love your present, mark, discussions and thoughts. Well, please keep yourselves in each other's prayers. I'm not going to mention names this time. People generally know who each other are. I'm going to have to sign off now because any moment now, Colin is going to come through the door. We had something rather nasty happen the other day, the day before yesterday, I think, Saturday anyway. We had a break-in at this church here through the ladies' loo. Now, I wouldn't have minded so much if they come through the ordinary window. That's fairly cheap to replace. But they came through one of these diamond-shaped windows, with little diamonds. I'll show you what they look like. Can you see it? Like that. I'm not sure if you can see that properly. You can see right at the very bottom here. Here, these diamond shapes here. So the person who broke in must have been quite skinny because he got through quite a small hole, broke in through there to open another window, instead of just smashing the whole window, which would have been far easier, and climbed into the place. He wandered around the church, he was obviously looking for money. He didn't steal. I'm saying he. That person didn't steal anything, but the only cupboard that's locked in the whole place is the one that Eleni keeps all the Christmas decorations in. And this person broke into the Christmas decoration cupboard, took out the odd box of baubles and put them on the floor, and obviously gave up in disgust. Also opened somebody else's leftover Christmas present and just discovered chocolate violets in there. Obviously didn't like chocolate violets and left those alone. So now Colin, wonderful person as he is, he's coming to take down the outdoor Christmas lights, but he's also coming to help me mend or rather it'll be me helping him not mend this window, but shore it up. The And the old wooden tops, of course, the cops were not all that bothered. Called them up and they wanted to know, is the person still in the building? That's a horrible thought. I hope not. Secondly, was there any blood around the place? Were there any footprints anywhere? No. And then after that, they couldn't care less. Any obvious fingerprints, anything? No, nothing like that. Did I have CCTV? No. And that was it. That was the end of the matter. Anyway, okay, so there we go. So, oh dear. And the annoying part was that had they just sort of broken the window, that'd have been fine. Or had they rung me up, phoned me, my phone number's on the outside. I'd pop round and give them food and other stuff. They didn't want food. They left a great big basket of food that they could have just eaten alone. And rather strangely, when people usually break into somewhere, they steal things like Coca-Cola, and there are 3 big bottles of Coca-Cola sitting there. They did drink some of it, and they just left it there. But there we go. Okay, so I don't know. Not even Hercule Poirot or Sherlock Holmes, or who else do we have along those same sort of lines? Cadfael, Miss Marple, or any of those could be bothered to turn up. Anyway, thank God nobody was actually hurt. Yesterday morning when I turned up all by myself, and this morning I was here from about 7 o'clock this morning, when I turned up, my immediate thought was that somebody climbed in through that window again and lurking around in the church. I'm going to be battered on the back of the head with some heavy Bible or something and knock me for 6. And I thought, actually, if that happens, I won't know anything about it, so don't worry about it. Just crack on and check the place. Usually I do anyway, but anyway, there we go. All right, so now I really must get off. Okay, God bless you, keep you. God willing, tomorrow we'll have another go. Your prayers.